Good morning, good evening, good afternoon to all my blessed beloveds in video land, which is still very bizarre for me to say. You're watching Living and Thriving with Rusty, and I'm Rusty. This is a place where your happiness matters. And this is season 2 for YouTube, season 11 for my podcast. And it's just mind-bending, everything that's transpired since we left you during the lockdown last year. I think my last interview was in Spain. I got to travel around the world virtually during lockdown, and it was quite exciting. Currently, I'm still bidding on school buses to convert into a cruising mobile so that I can go around the country, seeing beautiful places, doing videos and meeting amazing people, because even with all of the yucky stuff that's going on in the world and all of the yucky behaviors and attitudes and trolls on Twitter and all of those things, I still have faith in humanity. I still believe deeply in my heart that there are more good than there are bad. So keep trucking in the LTR world. I now have swag on Etsy, and I am starting a Patreon. I'm learning. I have a couple of audio books that I'm just wrapping up, as well as a few more books, which hopefully will be published before the end of summer. No guarantees. It's only me. I'm one person who's also a single mom, who also has to work to pay the bills. And as you know, I pay out of pocket for everything that I do, and every now and then you guys donate, which is kind, and I appreciate that, and it goes all towards advertisements and hosting the show. Bigger news, those of you, I think there was 12,000 of you who used to follow me on Facebook. My Facebook page was hacked. I do believe it was inside Facebook. Facebook has refused to respond to any of my pleas to get my page back, to get rid of the hackers, or to even reimburse me for 11 years and over $75,000 worth of work and advertisements on Facebook. So you will no longer see me advertising on Facebook or Facebook products, and you will no longer see me support that ideology that the page is what's going to be my presence, because evidently Facebook doesn't really care about small businesses or small people. I know if I were Nike or somebody bigger like that, they would have come to my rescue, and well, I'm not, I'm just me. So lesson learned, 11 years of hard work down the drain. And it was kind of heartbreaking, but I don't let much get me down. I'm fiery, so I'll keep fighting and persevering. I'll just use different platforms and other ways to get my message out. And again, that's okay. Hurdles, bumps, obstacles. You're going to have nefarious people. You're going to have people who do things that you never would do because you're just not that person. And my goal before I die is to prove that there are more good people out there than there are the nefarious. And hopefully shining all the light on the good stuff will drown out the dark of the bad. That's my hope. Anyway, we have 165 guests to get through, so I'm not rambling anymore. Go out and get doTERRA down here in the link. This week, or this show, it's all my favorite. Lavender. I woke up with a really sore neck, and I'm like, ooh, lavender and rosemary, that's always good. Good combination. My next guest is, So today's guest is Dr. Marni. I don't want to screw up your last name too badly, but I'm going to try it. Foderaro? No.
Pretty close. It's Foderaro.
Foderaro. See, I'm an audio learner, so I have to hear it a couple of times.
No problem. I get it wrong a lot too.
So we have stumbled across each other for many reasons, and I don't believe in coincidence. I always believe that there's a purpose for our connections. And I don't know how many shows you've seen or if you've heard the podcast or anything, but the largest thing that I like to do here is to get into the ooey gooey of the person. What makes you tick? Why do you get up out of bed? What's your purpose? What's your reasoning to do what you do? I think that there are a lot of bad things that we hear about, and I don't think we hear enough about the triumphs. And I really want to live the rest of my life focusing and showcasing beautiful people who do beautiful things on this planet, because we need more of that. We need more inspiration. We need more awareness that not everybody's bad and not everybody's nefarious. So tell us who you are, what you do, and why you do what you do.
All right. Well, thank you, Rusty, for having me on your show. And I resonate with the same values that you do, that, we need to choose to live in goodness and in light and in positivity, because no matter what, there'll always be people or situations that will be negative. And so how we choose to live our life is key, not only to our well-being, but we can hopefully inspire others to do the same and have a more positive life. So let's see, where do I begin? I was a special education high school teacher for 35 years, 12 of those years as an adjunct professor in Illinois. And I didn't get into writing that much until after I retired from teaching. And some of you that are seeing this in a visual, you can see my background. I live in the beautiful Caribbean. That's where I chose to retire, to be close to nature and just the warmth of the sun and the beautiful surroundings. But part of my story does involve surviving domestic violence and surviving narcissist abuse and parental alienation. And all of us have had many challenges in our lives. That happened to be, my big roadblock to my American dream that I was living. And, but instead of focusing on the negative, and, when you are dealing with an abuser, there are lots of negatives. In fact, the campaign against you continues years after you escape.
Oh, girl.
But
I've been 10 years, almost 11 years divorced. I'm 1,400 miles away, and it still goes on. And he's on his fourth wife. I'm like, come on. Narcissists.
Right. Yeah, so you really understand. Yes, you really understand more than most. They take everything away from you. They take away your home, your money, your assets. They take away your friends and neighbors. You could lose your job. You lose your health because of all the stress. And in my case, I lost an adult child, not a little kid, but an adult child to parental alienation. And yet they still don't, that's not enough for them. Even if they have moved on with other relationships, like you said, yours is on, wife number 4 or whatever, they just have a need to destroy. And so you have to realize that they're mentally ill. I mean, that's a real disorder that they cannot let go and move on in their lives for whatever reason, for their own traumas. But I think a lot of it is their choice. And then there's just a mix of evil. There are some people that just don't believe like we do in goodness and light and compassion and all of that. So it's we're survivors, and then there's reasons why we connect with other people that are survivors. But I just choose to live. It doesn't matter what is thrown at me. I know I'm a good person. I know that my intentions have always been pure. I believe in the values of honesty, compassion, forgiveness, goodness. And you know what? I'm just, when I open my heart and soul up to that, good things do come my way. I've actually been witness to miracles that have happened, spiritual miracles that I never would have believed in or even paid attention to. I grew up atheist. So it wasn't even in my worldview to, I was accepting of all religions and races and people. And, I'm just not a judgmental person. But at the same time, I didn't have a spiritual or religious foundation of any kind, but because I suffered so much trauma with my continued abuse, you know. Yeah, it just like it opened up my spirit to good things to come my way. And some of it is just choice. You wake up each day and you're mindful of what is good and how do you want to conduct yourself and who do you want to surround yourself with. I even found a very close childhood friend that I thought that relationship was solid, just completely solid. Look at, you're nodding your head no. You find when you are becoming enlightened and you're in tune with people that have narcissistic tendencies and don't always have your best interest at heart, you start to realize, wait a minute, I'll take responsibility. I was in a trauma bond, you know, with this particular person, this friend, just as I was in a trauma bond with my ex-husband. So you end up, your friend base ends up getting smaller and smaller because you're being more discerning about who you will let in your life.
I will say,
and that's not a bad thing.
I will say that just perspective, every Christmas Eve we threw a outlaw party. So anybody in our lives that didn't have family or friends or a place to go, they could come and we would play Battle of the Sexes, eat appetizers, and drink until we were married. Fun. And the last year that we did that, I had 27 people in my house.
Wow.
So, you know, I volunteered everywhere. Everybody knew me as a volunteer, blah, blah, blah. And when this all went down, I had no one to call. No supports whatsoever. I had more supports from strangers on Facebook, even though I didn't really share too much of my story because that's the narcissistic piece. You have to be careful where your outlets are. But the people that I had relationships for like 20, 30 years, they turned their back. They just turned their back. And it was such a painful thing for me because I'm a sensitive. I'm a cuddle bug. Like I'm just a sweet person, and to have that realization that all of those 27 people wouldn't even lend me $5.
Right. It is very shocking, you know, and in my case, I was like the neighborhood mom in a beautiful neighborhood and very involved volunteering, you know, at my kids' school and helping out any neighbor with anything. Not one neighbor, you know, came to my aid, talked to me, or has any kind of relationship with me. Actually, I did hear from one neighbor, but it was definitely a flying monkey situation, and I knew to block that person and not respond. But the alienators or the abusers are very, very skilled at somehow making up lies, oftentimes with half-truths, you know, where there's a little bit of believability in there. But for whatever reason, they can enlist an army against you because they want to destroy you. My ex told me the defining moment when he shoved me up against the wall and put his finger in my face. And he said, "Don't you dare divorce me, or I'll take your money, your children, your home." And I'm thinking, who says, "Don't you dare divorce me"? Wouldn't you think a reasonable person, if things were not going well, they would say, you know, you go your way, I'll go my way, or whatever. But I mean, he was so concerned with his public image, and that somehow, you know, people would find out that maybe he's not this good, honest person. I mean, I knew that, but I didn't pay attention to the red flags, and I didn't act on it until I absolutely knew I had no choice. I had to escape.
Mine said to me after 17 years, I handed him the divorce papers. He knew it was coming. You know, we did the therapy. We did all I knew what I was dealing with at this point, so I knew how to cover all my bases. So I made sure we went to marriage counseling. I made sure I waited 5 years. I slept on the couch. I went to counseling and hiding. He never knew in that process, trying to heal myself and become strong. Plus I had a child. And, when I handed him the divorce papers, he said, "Who the F is going to want me? I'm 45. Well, it's not me.
Right.
Sorry,
but that's also kind of a reverse psychology comment, because, you know, to get you to pity him to say, well, oh, I'll come back, of course, because, you know, we've been through so much, or we have this history together. But thank goodness you saved yourself. And I am so blessed and grateful every day that I saved myself. Even though I may not have one of my adult children in my life, I actually feel you know, that person has their own journey to go through. It took me so many years for my life bulb to go on. At least they are aware of the term parental alienation. And, you know, at some point they might realize maybe something has to happen to them. And maybe it might not happen till they have their own children, or, you know what, it might not ever happen. But I have to be at peace with being a role model and doing what is right. And it would be wrong for me to have stayed in an abusive situation, to give the message to my children that, hey, it's okay to be treated like this. And you just ignore it and move on. It's, you know, I did that for a long time. And I think part of it was that, you know, it's because of the children, but also because you're busy, you're wrapped up in your life, you know, you're hosting parties and doing things. You know, your life is very full, that you really don't stop and say, wait a minute, is this healthy for me or not? But,
Well,
you know,
in my particular case, I had an abusive childhood. So I went from one abusive season to another abusive season. And I thought that whole time it was my fault. And, you know, what can I do to change myself to be better so that he wouldn't react and yell at me and call me names and things like that. And I got very, very sick and realized that that's not the life that I wanted to live.
No.
But my question to you, because I too lost a child through parental alienation, and I know that she will eventually come back, but I really think it's going to be at a time when her father's passed, because narcissists they tether into you. If you can think of Velcro or claws or whatever your analogy is in your particular story, you have to really unpin them. Even as an adult survivor of narcissistic abuse, you know, again, it's been 11 years and he still comes after me. It's like, come on.
Right.
Have the cord.
And with frivolous, you know, they'll sue you. They'll harass you and stalk you, you know, to where you really almost need to get another order of protection, even though, you know, those don't necessarily save people from these dangerous predators.
84%.
But yes,
84% of women with protection orders end up in another domestic situation with a person that they're protected from. And, you know, protection orders are lovely. It's kind of a warning, but it doesn't stop them. If they're determined to.
Nope, the bad guys or girls, because women can be abusers as well. I mean, so it's not gender specific, but, you know, they will find every way to destroy. And the parental alienation is a very, very sad story, because they are damaging these kids for life. And when you're talking about the tethering, they make these adult children feel like they could not handle life on their own, that even though they might be smart or have a degree or can hold a job, they put these children down so much, and the trauma bond gets thicker and thicker, and they almost, you know, make it, they don't even have to outwardly threaten, you know, or say bad things about the other parent. They can do it so subtly and so underhandedly that, you know, these kids are they're just caught up in a cycle of abuse. On my website, which is the title of my book, www.godcametomygarage-sale, I just had an interview with Love Dominates organization, which is a 501c3 having to do with parental alienation. We just did an interview, a second interview, like for a 2-part series, addressing and talking directly to the adult children of parental alienation, in the hopes that kids around the world could possibly tune in, or maybe one of their friends would see it and say, hey, this sounds like your situation, just to let these kids know that they don't have to continue in this, that they really should have the love of both parents.
Mm-hmm.
And they just need to know who they're dealing with the
Yep.
different parents.
Mine started with the first child around 6 or 7 years of age. He would say to her, well, you're not biologically hers, so she couldn't love you like a real child.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
so when I had a biological child, the first child became very distraught because
Sure.
he had known all of these years that I couldn't possibly love her like my own child. And now, you know what I mean? And so
even though all your actions were clearly
exactly.
100% there for them.
Yeah. And so mine's a covert narcissist, and he's very
Yes.
gifted that way.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's go on to the funner parts of this.
Let's go on to the good stuff. Yes.
Girl,
You know, but it's good. It's very important that we acknowledged what we just did, though. It's very important. And I think it will help some of your listeners and viewers, because there are so many men and women out there in these similar situations. So yes, I'm glad we talked about it, but the reality is when I don't have to, I don't think about the negativity at all. And I'm just living a beautiful life.
Well, and what I want to know, do you have a book there that you want to show us?
Sure. Oh, sure. The book that I wrote, can you see it? It's called God Came to My Garage Sale. And it just won the 2020 Best Books Award.
Nice.
And it was prominently endorsed by very famous people. One of them was James Redfield, who wrote the Celestine Prophecy.
Yeah.
And who normally doesn't endorse books. Yeah, I had approached him when I had met him in the Chicago area, and he's like, well, I really don't endorse other people. I'm doing my own Celestine vision, which is amazing. He does, group meditations and all sorts of wonderful things to bring out goodness and awareness, to just light. But I just said, well, just take my manuscript and, just if you feel like reading it, or passing it on or whatever. And I got a call a few months later saying, wow, I loved your book. I am going to endorse it. And that was a big game changer for me. And I also had, it's basically, the book is a spiritual fiction. My first few drafts were very therapeutic in that I made the character be a survivor of domestic abuse. And I went into a lot of details with this character. I knew to make it fictional because of all the legal threats that the abusers, they will find any kind of avenue to bring you down. So I knew I needed to do a fiction. But luckily, I basically had a spiritual awakening with numerous experiences, including experiences at a garage sale, but many others that I kind of incorporated into this story. And I took all the negative out of it because it wasn't necessary. Mm-hmm. It was therapeutic for me to write that. And now I'm finding my voice, and I'm part of some magazine articles. I'm actually in this month's Eden magazine 2021 with Marielle Hemingway on the cover. I'm on there, but I do talk about parental alienation and surviving abuse, but I also talk about finding God, finding spirituality, and living in goodness. So my writing has been therapeutic. And because of this one particular book that I did that was a very big success, God Came to My Garage Sale, I am now a co-author of 4 other best-selling anthology books. And one is called The Last Breath. One is called The Evolution of Echo. And actually that does have to do with narcissist abuse. That's Angie Atkinson's anthology. I actually did an anonymous essay in there from the abuser's point of view. So just a different way of writing. One of the books I actually was involved with is called The Ultimate Book for Dog Lovers. I got involved with that because I really admire Debbie Dashinger, and just I learned about her through the Blue Talks, which was something I got very much involved with. But also, my alienated child is an animal lover, and I helped instill that. And I thought, well, this is just yet another way to reach alienated child, because really I identify so much being a mother. That's who we are. When we become mothers, we can't just turn that off, so anyway, and the Blue Talks that I mentioned, that has been just so instrumental in opening so many other doors for me. Blue stands for business, life, and the universe. And Corey Poirier has put out now 4 volumes, and they're anthology books where people from all different backgrounds come together and contribute an essay or a chapter. And my chapter in that particular book was going from an atheist, a devout atheist, to an unwavering believer. And that's what I chose to write about in that, for that book. And because of that, I was asked to speak at Columbia University in New York City. So I'm headed this fall. Hopefully the world will open up in a way that I can do this in person, because they're not doing it virtually, where I can speak about, surviving and handling life's traumas and challenges with goodness and love, making good choices for yourself.
So my beautiful friend, I am in love with you already. I think you're just, you being speak, and you have such a sweetness to you that I can understand why you fell into the claws of the narcissist, because I think we tend to be a certain type of person, and we end up evolving into a very spiritual being after the process of healing.
Right. I mean, we're empathetic and caring people, and that is, and we're also kind of, I don't know, we look at the world in some ways through rose-colored glasses, like all people are good and let's give everyone a chance no matter what. But after some time, you do start to protect your privacy more, and you make better choices for yourself. But, that's all part of my journey. Maybe I am, I came to this earth from a past life and I needed to, face this situation head on. Who knows,
Cutting those karmic ties, right?
Right. Yeah, definitely.
So I know that in order to rebuild my life and myself and learn who I am as an independent person after all the years of being restructured and reprogrammed, I moved very, very, very far away. You moved very, 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 very far away.
Very, very far away.
And I'm jealous. I'm hoping you have a lean-to or a hut or something in the nearby neighborhood that I can just visit every day.
Actually, I'm in St. Croix, which is in the U.S. Virgin Islands. So, and I just actually this morning drove past, well, we have beaches everywhere. There's a beach, and I'm actually in the water most every day. But today I already drove past one of the beaches loaded with tourists. So a lot of people, despite whatever the travel restrictions, they are making their way to the islands, to the Caribbean, to enjoy some sun and get a break from everything. But yes, I chose to move far away. My partner, my life partner, Rick, a very good friend, and I decided to move to the Caribbean after traveling the world, looking at different places, knowing we wanted to go somewhere besides Illinois. I loved Illinois, though. Don't get me wrong. I raised my family there. I love the seasons. I could find beauty no matter where I am living. But so Rick and I traveled to Israel and India and Thailand and pretty much almost every state you can imagine in the United States, and Iceland. We had amazing experiences in Iceland. This was, of course, pre-shutdown, so we really did a lot of traveling in our time together, but we kept on coming back to the islands, and he's into astronomy and scuba diving. I'm into just sun and swimming and nature, and I do get scared here and there when a boa comes, right next to my bedroom, and that happens. They're not native to the island, but we have boa constrictors. Right. And I've learned now, I know how to get them myself and trap them and hand them over to the Department of Natural Resources, and who knows what they do with them from there. But anyway, we decided, yes, let's get to the islands, and we've been here 2 years now. And we are so happy. This is a life we want to live. It's very quiet, peaceful. I live in the rainforest on many acres overlooking the ocean. So it's just, and everything is a short distance away. And luckily they have great restaurants because I am a foodie. I love to eat, but they also have museums and very interesting people. The culture is beautiful here.
I love it. I love a number of things that you brought up, and we're kind of running out of time, so I'm going to try to.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Yeah.
I'm sorry. That we can talk for hours. And I also was you're an educator, by the way.
Oh, wow. Yes.
We have a lot in common.
Great respect for you.
Yeah. How was it to develop an intimate relationship after narcissism, one? And two, it must be absolutely glorious to be in your divine space. I mean, when you're talking about your space, you glow like an angel. You're really at peace with everything. So give us quick, how did you get into a relationship again?
Well, actually, I've got a hair here bothering me. Actually, I'm sitting in my spiritual room right now with the ocean in the background. So I'm surrounded by essential oils and angel cards and spiritual things from all over the world. And so, yes, sitting in a divine space is a lovely thing. And you also have to take time to meditate and, do a lot of self-care. But as far as getting into another relationship, it just sort of happened. I didn't look for it at all. I mean, I was very, very concerned about that, and it wasn't even on my radar to be in another relationship at all. But I have with this actually this alienated child, we would play tennis a lot. We took tennis lessons, and we'd enjoy time at a local health club. And I did a lot of tutoring at that health club too. It was right near my school. And we ended up taking a tennis class where I met Rick, and such a good person. Tried to set him up with someone because I was married at the time, but he had someone special. I became very close with him and his girlfriend, who was just amazing. I mean, they're older than me, both of them, but we really connected on so many levels. And so we hung out together all the time, and they lived close by. But she ended up getting very, very sick and passed away. And I was there for him and for her during this time, almost like that was meant to be. And he was there for me. Actually, they both were there for me when I realized I had to escape my marriage. So we had a bond and a connection where we knew all the players. And as it turns out, Rick is also a survivor of domestic violence. And a lot of men don't talk about that because it's not a manly thing to admit to or whatever. But, I think because of his experiences and knowing my experiences, we just are a wonderful support for each other. And, we just laugh and we have fun and we respect each other. So we come into this relationship with a different perspective than just, oh, I'm dating, someone new. We really have a very close bond, a very spiritual bond. And actually, he was much more spiritual than me and taught me so much. And so that kind of helps solidify a relationship. And so we really enjoy being together, and we're there to support each other, and we have fun every day.
Yay. That's so,
Yay.
It gives us hope for those of us who are still out there going, no.
Yep. Yeah. Right. Yep. Well, it will happen probably when you're least expecting it and when you're not looking for it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But I am very blessed to be able to spend my days with my best friend. And he is very supportive and really understands so many of the things that I'm going through. And I understand, his situation too. So we have each other, which is nice.
I love it. So talk to me a little bit about what's next on your adventure list. I mean, you have books that you've, touched in, danced on, created, and now what?
Well, I've been asked a lot to be on podcasts like yours. I'm simultaneously writing 4 books at one time right now. So 2 of them are poetry books,
Nice.
which is very healing for me. One is a workbook, and another is a glossary of, not a glossary, but a book of terms related to a lot of the things that we talked about today. So I'm working on those projects, but the poetry is very, very healing. I actually taught a workshop at our local Caribbean Arts Museum on just helping people get their first novel out. But, you know, travel plans, we have a few still in the works, but until they get a little closer, we really won't know for sure if we are, but we definitely had to cancel plans to Indonesia and to Spain and to Athens. And gosh, we had a few others, and it's just, you know, so, but luckily we're living in paradise. So we focused a lot on our home and doing some projects here. So that's kind of what I'm working on, but just also choosing to live positively, mindfully, and enjoy each day, and don't, you know, make sure I take time to stop and appreciate every blessing that has been given to me.
I live on
and I try to manifest. Oh, what's it?
I live on the west coast of Florida now, and
okay, great.
I think, you know, it's not my permanent home by any stretch of the imagination. I don't know where that's going to be, but for now it is. And I tell you, every day it's sunny. Every day it's beautiful. We have so much wildlife out here. It's Jurassic Park. It's hard not to, when you put yourself in a positive environment, it's hard not to connect with that and resonate. Even if you try to fight it, it's going to get you. Those rainbows on the afternoon after a rainstorm get you.
Oh gosh, the rainbows. I mean, in fact, if I'm on the other end of the house, Rick will text me, rainbow alert, and we have to run out, you know, and take a look because there's rainbows every day. But yeah, I've got someone very close to me that I'm encouraging to make a move to, or supporting his interest in making a move to the sunshine, because that's just very healing in so many ways. Plus it's, you know, making a move allows you to kind of reinvent yourself and to start over fresh in some ways. And that can be a very healing thing, to leave behind negativity and make a conscious effort to just move towards goodness and new adventures. So I'm glad you're in a sunny spot and enjoying your days.
Yeah, it's hard to complain. It really is. I can only imagine what it's like to be on St. Croix. I have been to St. Thomas and St. Martin.
Very different than St. Thomas.
They're very different islands within themselves.
Very.
I've not been to St. Croix, so that's got to be put on the bucket list for once everybody gets
back. And actually we took, because we could take a ferry over to St. John, which is known for being a national park for the most part. I went because the bookstore there was interested in carrying my book. And there's only one kind of bookstore there. This is a very small island. And so we went just for the day and had a marvelous time. Just had a great time, even though we're already living in paradise. So well, and at least we can island hop.
I think when you come from a space of trauma and constantly being in fight or flight and constantly being concerned and fearful, it really is, it's amazing and almost uncomfortable in the beginning to feel like nobody's going to yell at me.
So happy.
Yeah. Nobody's going to yell at me today. I'm not going to get, you know, put in a situation I don't want to be in. I'm in peace and I can just go and flow.
Right. But they continue, the abusers continue with legal threats. It doesn't matter how far away you are. They'll think of something, even if they lie and they make up things, they will still try to drag you in. That's why at some point it would be nice to just have some sort of legal support so you can stop being harassed. But, you know, it's really such a sad reflection on them and their own disorder, pretty much, you know, that, you know, just to be thankful you got away and you don't have to deal with the day-to-day. Like, you know, you were saying, you're not yelled at. And so there's a lot of hope for that. So
I think it's very unfortunate. I know where my daughter and I moved from, They don't have laws for stalking. They don't have, he literally could choke her as long as he didn't bruise her. It was okay.
Right.
And he did.
Right.
But there was nothing.
And the emotional, just think of all the emotional abuse that you can't see physically.
Yeah.
And the financial abuse and sexual abuse and all sorts of things that go on.
I think it's very unfortunate in 2021 that we don't have the wherewithal to see it as it is. Everyone else knows it exists. It's not a huge elephant in the room, but legally nobody will step forth, and not all states, but a lot of states, they don't step forth to give those mandates and those laws to protect people.
Right. Well, actually, you know, there's hope because, you know, it seems that some truth is being exposed or some lies are being exposed. And, you know, without getting into politics or the news or anything like that, some things are coming forward where, you know, it's in the forefront a little bit more, and it's just going to take, I don't know what it will take to wake up the nation to realize the seriousness of this. Yeah, but at least we're doing our part by acknowledging it and talking about it publicly and writing about it. And, you know, it's not like we have to, we're not committing any slander. We're not saying anything negative about another person. All we're doing is speaking the truth and sharing our experiences. And, you know, that will help get the word out. And help provide validation and confirmation for others to maybe make a change in their life and get themselves safe.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, the class has come to an end, and I want everybody to be able to find, it goes by so fast. How do we find out more information?
I could talk with you for hours, I could tell.
So my love, how do we find more information about you?
Well, I'm no longer on Facebook or Instagram or these social medias. My book is called God Came to My Garage Sale, and my website is the name of that book. So you could go on my website, www.godcametomygarage.com, and there you can see the different books that I'm involved in. And under a section called Happenings, which I keep up to date, I add podcasts in there and magazine articles and different things that I'm involved in, so that, you know, you can kind of see what I'm doing. So that's the best way to keep in touch, you know, is to check out my website.
Well, I hope you're not a stranger to the living and thriving world. I want you to come back on whenever you have that time so that we can.
Okay, great.
You and I could talk for days.
And there's a lot more to talk about too.
Oh, yes,
there's a lot more to talk about. And yeah, maybe I'll see you on the island here. That would be great.
That would be wonderful.
Think about it.
Take care.
All right. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you.
You're watching Living and Thriving with Rusty, and I'm Rusty. And this place is where your happiness matters. And if you didn't see happy on her beaming face, then you missed something. Were you poking something out of your eye? Come on. She was glowing. She's radiant and thrilled to be doing what it is that she's supposed to be doing, her purpose. Yes, the journey was not fun. Getting there never is. But in the long run, it seems to me that she's doing a lot of good. And that's all that I really care about, is the good in this world. We can go on and on and on about the bad, but why beat a dead horse? They're no fun. They get smelly after a while, I heard. Who knows? That was like a early 1900s. I don't know if you knew that, where when the horses died, they just left them out on the street to decompose. Right. Ew. Yeah. There's not enough trees in the world for that. Anyway, know that you're loved, know that you're beautiful, and 163 more to go. Let's do this, LTR. Let's make it happen. Until next time.